Good evening or good morning, depending on where you are. Thank you for joining our webinar. This is Ashley Tusignot. I'm Senior Product Manager for Secure 9000. I'm here with Greg. Greg, want to give a quick hello?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. We're really excited about doing the webinar today. I'm Greg Hollenbeck. I'm the Senior Product Manager for the hardware for Software House. So hopefully we can cover everything today for you. We're going to talk a little bit about the SC and of course, the new Secure 3.0. So ask away questions and you'll have the question box, so ask away whenever you want.
Yes, we'll pause after. As you can see for our lineup, we're going to start with iSTAR Ultra G2. Greg's going to take us through the hardware portion, and then we'll pause for some questions that are related to hardware, and then I will pick things up with Secure 9000 3.0 and give you a demonstration of the web client, and then we'll do a quick little intro to Secure IQ and what that is, and then we'll leave some room at the end for questions. Just to note, if we don't get through all questions, we are compiling a full FAQs document that our sales team will help distribute out after. Again, this is our third session, so we will be recording this, and we'll be putting one of these recordings posted on our Learn site. So on the Software House website, on the front page, there's a little link to the Learn portal where you can find great demo videos and webinars and things like that. All right, Greg, I think we're ready.
Excellent. So we'll jump right in. So I'm really excited to launch the new SC. So it's kind of the final piece to our pie, you might say. It's the last piece of the Ultra line in the G2 series to make it available. Many of you may know that we've had this product actually available since April, and we've been doing quite well with sales so far on it. Of course, this is the official launch, so we'll we'll do a little dive into it and what it can and can't do. As we all know, we still have the same GCM controlling the system. So we still have the cyber hardening, we still have 32 doors, so we do actually have the ability to go to 4 ACMs, up to 1 million card holders. Of course, still supporting dual gigabit ports, IPv6, DHCP, and 802.1. The new SE also supports OSDP support, as well as embedded high assurance as well. So we'll go on to the next slide. And what you will find, so in the new SE, is very similar to the current Gen 1 product. We are very plug and play. So, as you pull out, Generation 1, or you're pulling out a Pro, you're going to have all the same connection points that we've had on the Pro series, as well as the Generation 1. So this is a direct plug and play replacement. So all the holes fit, and we fit still into the same existing Pro cans that we've had in some time. So it's a great legacy upgrade. We have a smaller footprint, of course. So this is a nice application where you need a smaller enclosure, and that smaller enclosure is, it's quite a bit smaller than a standard ACM can. So one of the key things, there's a couple key things you really need to understand about the new G2s. One of them, of course, is the embedded power that we have on the Gen 2 and Gen 1 current ACMs is not available on the SC product one. So quick question came in, are the Gen 1 and the Gen 2 boards interchangeable? Actually, they are. So that is one of the things we'll talk about, is how you can mix and match and the features that you get out of both pieces. So, but it is a great Pro upgrade. One of the key things to really understand about the Gen 2 is that it will not run in Pro mode that we're used to. So many of us have been, on the Gen 1's been running in Pro mode. Now you're going to have to go through that conversion tool that we have available in the host. And that's been around since 2.7. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. So as we jump into the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about the inputs and the outputs. So we still have 8 Wiegand inputs. We still have 8 RS-485 ports. Now they're switchable from RM to OSDP mode. The really one of the big enhancements that we made was two full duplex ports. So on the bottom, you can see where the split is between the connection points. You'll see that there are two full duplex ports, allowing for TSTs to run in full smart mode. So that's an enhancement that we made on the G2 line. Of course, same 16 inputs, and then of course our 8 socketed relays. Everybody loves our socketed relays. It gives us the ability to swap out relays if we needed to. We also have our I/O support, so I8s, R8s, up to 8 of each, right? So gives us a lot of flexibility on the additional inputs and outputs as well. Again, Pro upgrade, plug and play. So this board is a direct swap in, swap out. There's no backplanes needed like we've needed in the past, so we don't have to make any conversions on the backplanes. And one of the real key factors is that we cannot run in Pro mode, so you're going to have to go through this conversion tool. And I'll talk about it briefly here in a minute as well. I see a couple questions came in. So G1 and G2 firmwares. So yeah, it will be the same GCM firmware, and it knows the difference between the two, so it automatically assigns it based on what it is. So there's an identifier, of course, between the ACMs and the GCMs, so it allows it to say, oh, I'm a Gen 1 or I'm a Gen 2. And both also support, depends on the version of Secure, supporting 4 ACMs, and I believe that's 2.9 Service Pack 2. So the question was, do both Gen 1s and Gen 2 support 4 ACMs? And the answer to that question is yes, but you have to be at the host at Service Pack 2 of 2.9. Next slide. Talk a little bit about the OSDP support. So of course we have OSDP support in all 8 of the RS-485 communications, allowing for, of course, readers, of course, I/O modules, and then additional I/O will be coming down the road from us as well. So I'm currently working on a project to allow our RM modules to be upgraded to both OSDP and ORM, so they're going to be switchable as we move forward. It's the next big project. I'll be launching that probably in the next year, I would say within the next year. So that's going to be a great upgrade, so you'll be able to run IOs in either option, so either the RM mode or OSDP, which is a great feature. Of course, supporting SIS, back up, sorry. Supporting SIS as well as the IEC. So down here you can see where those 2 full duplex ports are. So they're down there at the bottom, and that allows for smart mode. Now we can move on to the next slide. So the upgrade. So when you're converting from a Pro to an SE, it really is a very plug-and-play device. It allows you to move from one to the other very easily. You can stay in the existing Pro cans, and you can just remove your Pro, put in a GCM, put in a new SE in both locations. So plug and play, fits in perfect. All the connection points are there. We have the socketed relays. We have of course, all of the feature sets that we've had before, added 4 ACMs to a single GCM. So the way we do that today is we're doing a single GCM in one enclosure with 2 ACMs underneath it. And then we're adding a second enclosure next to it for up to 15 feet USB. And then you're just going to have 2 additional ACMs in that second can. You're not going to have a GCM. So you can support 1 GCM and then 4 ACMs connected right below it. So the key thing to truly understand is the Pro mode. So you're going to have to go through the conversion tool. Unlike Gen 1, we don't have a Pro mode. So in this one, you're going to go into the host, and this started in 2.7. You're going to go into the host. You're going to find your Pro that you're converting. That Pro then would be, there's a conversion tool that you'll see off to the right. When you open up the Pro, you're going to see a conversion tool button. And it just basically is as simple as that. Convert it. It's going to do a switch over. It's asking you to do a backup first, of course. Do the backup, and then it's going to do the conversion. It's going to convert very cleanly a Pro into a ACM right there. I do have a couple questions that came in. Let me see. The board looks very, very similar to the Gen 1 ACM, very, very similar. By looking at it, it almost looks identical. The only way to tell is one, of course, the chips on it are different. So the processor chips are different, so they're Atmel chips. And then two, the other piece is the full duplex ports. So that's how you can tell the difference between the two. You have those two additional wider ports, which are 6-point connections instead of 4-point connections. And you have that located and then the kind of the centered offset to the right a little bit. So please confirm what is no pro mode. So in generation 1, you had the ability to flip a switch and an ACM SC would run like a pro. And you could switch out the modules, so you could switch out a pro ACM, and then you could put in an SC ACM, flip a switch, and it would run identical. Today, you have to go through the conversion and actually convert it from the Pro full series to a now GCM with 2 ACMs underneath it. Hopefully that answers your question. If not, then hit me back up again. So one GCM, this can be considered as 32-reader controller. That is correct. So the question was, can one GCM be considered a 32-door controller? That is absolutely true. We would have one GCM again, and then 4 ACMs underneath it. The new GCMs have 4 USB connection points on them, so you would connect each one individually. 1 and 2 would be in the first enclosure, and then 3 and 4 would be in the second enclosure. Okay.
And then I think, did we get the first one, Greg? Are both G1 and G2 supported with 4 ACMs now?
That is true, yes. And okay. You can intermix them and go back all the way to version 2.5 in Secure. So you can take a G2, put it into an older enclosure with all the way back to Secure 2.5. What that will do is at that version, it will run as that level of functionality. So you wouldn't have the functionality of basically you only lose the TST smart mode function. It's the only thing you really lose out of it. And then as soon as you get to 2.9, Service Pack 2, then you would gain all that feature set back. So it is backwards compatible to Secure 2.5. Now, many of you may or may not know that Secure 2.5 ran on both Windows 7 and also on Windows 10. So Windows 7 is no longer supported by Microsoft, so we do not support it as well. So you would have to be at Windows 10 Secure 2.5 to get the functionality and to be backwards compatible. So we've tested it back to 2.5, 2.6, 2.7, 2.8, 2.9, and now 3.0. So all of those features are, all of those versions of Secure are fully functional. If you want the new features of the SC, so the G2 features, you'll have to be at 2.9 Service Pack 2. Hopefully that answers everybody's questions. So this kind of rounds out our family, right? So we've kind of completed the whole G2 line. There are some new cool products coming down the pike, and we're expecting them in the next year. That is our OSDP/RM products, so that will be available probably about a year from now. We're in the process of building them and schematicking them and getting them through prototype. So that's another feature set, a part of the G2 line that will be available as the next step. But Edge Gen 2 out and doing great. Ultra G2, of course, which is standard ACM, has been out for some time now, doing very well. Now the SC's been out since April, also doing very well. And then we also, of course, have our Gen 1 line. So, and I'm trying to talk about Gen 1 and Gen 2 so I don't confuse everybody. But Gen 1, the LT, the SC, and the Ultra. Now there are, as we move from panel to panel, there is an end of manufacturing date for this. We're looking at spring of 2023, of which, of course, we're not end of support, we're just end of manufacturing because we're transitioning over to the SC. So you will see that information coming out in the near future. I'll be sending out letters and updating everybody on when that date is officially. Do we have any additional questions? See, Boone jumped on and off.
Yeah, I think, so we do have Boone on. He is our APAC Senior Product Manager. So he is our global support for the APAC region. Hopefully you guys are familiar with him. He'll be on just to assist with any questions.
Yep, so any regional-based questions, Boone should be able to answer for us.
Great. Okay, I think we're ready. We can jump into Secure. If you think of any other hardware-related questions, we can certainly pause and take those after. Okay, so Secure 9000 3.0. This is a pretty significant launch for us, not just because I got to team up with Greg here, but also because the last core rev was 290, and that released in August of 2020. So it's been about a year and a half. The team's been working really hard. So aside from just the new iSTAR G2 panel support, right, from all the controllers that Greg just brought us through, we've had a lot of core areas of Secure that have been updated. So right at the top, we had our next phase of the web-based client. So this is the third version of that. We introduced dynamic dashboards, application layouts, video, so built-in video out of the box for both our American Dynamic and Exact sister brands. Other things, we'll get into all the specifics of all the functionality added for the web, and I'll be able to provide a quick demo as well. On the thick client side, we had HID CEOS and MyFair EV1, EV2 support. So with CEOS, that is using our latest HID Fargo HDP 6600 badging printer. So that is the inline OmniKey encoder, 5127 CK Mini. So that is what is supported for those HID CEOS cards. And then the EV1, EV2 support is great because we've actually now adapted it so that you can have multiple applications simultaneously. So you can have up to 5. So what this is doing is it's really future-proofing your cards. So if one of them gets hacked, if one of those applications gets hacked, it's a rolling key now, and it's going to pick up one of the additional 5 that are running. So great security update on that side. And then we had Secure Portal. So Secure Portal is what houses our visitor management and our access management workflow. And that has moved to a completely new web Angular. So it's the best, latest and greatest in cybersecurity. We also leveraged the same user experience team, UI designers that we had brought in-house for the web-based client. So you're going to notice when I share some of those screens, the look and feel is very similar to the web client for 2 reasons. One is just, for the expertise of making that client as easy as possible to work with, but also keeping, color and icons consistent and making the training process for anybody who's using these applications very easy. We also have email template customization that was introduced, and I'm going to get into the details of that on the next slide. But that was a very popular request that came in for any of our Secure Portal users, that people really wanted to tweak any of the emails that would go out for visitor management or access management workflow. And the last one that I wanted to point out is that as an option now in Secure 9000 version 3.0, you can use SQL database, so the RDS, supported by Amazon, and that just makes it easier to set up, operate, and scale SQL Server deployments in the cloud. So again, not requirement, just something that you can use starting in 3.0. Here's a closer look at the email customization for Secure Portal. So there are several templates available for both of those offerings. There's 5 for each, or 5 main ones anyways for each. And with visitor management, it's set up by site. With this new update, you have this little built-in chart where you can pick which of the emails that you would like to update, and you can either make minor text edits or you can open up full HTML and go crazy with your creativity. You can add logos for your company, you can have different colors, you can change the text size and font, everything. So if you don't have an HTML expert in-house and you do want to do some more, creative HTML type changes, our global professional services team does offer this as a quick setup item, similar to like our Secure Go reader has a setup option through professional services. So that is available. We also support all of the native languages from Secure 9000. So you would be able to easily shift between any of those languages, and those emails would populate in the correct language. And lastly, just that there's a preview tab as well, where you can make sure that all of the edits to those emails is coming through properly. And here is a look at Secure Portal. So this is just kind of a quick collage of some of the screens. So again, the look and feel is going to be very similar to the web-based client. Other things that we've updated, there's now light and dark mode themes. So we have updated to 4 different color themes. There's one light mode theme, and then there's several versions of the charcoal to black color options, just depending on, what type of room you're in for light sensitivity. If you're doing like a lot of heavy video viewing and things like that, we want to make sure that we had those options available. There's also filtering tools. So similar to the web client, you're going to have those kind of quick searchability functions on any of the pages, just to make finding everything a lot easier. And I also wanted to note, in our April price book, we did change around the access management workflow structure, and I think it's a lot better. So it's much easier to expand now. So what we were hearing from some of our customers that were early adopters of access management workflow was that they loved to use it, but it was getting kind of costly to have it, offered on all of their different servers throughout the system. So what they were doing was kind of truncating and only offering it through a couple. And how it worked previously was that you had a small, medium, or large license option, and then you would receive 1,000 approvers and requesters per system series. And then if you wanted additional approvers and requesters, you could buy, additional buckets of those approvers and requesters to add to it. So we've removed that, and now whatever your personnel or your global cardholder record limit is per system series size is now going to be your max number of approvers and requesters. So you'll just need to worry about the small, medium, or large license per your system. So hopefully that makes sense. If you do have any questions, there are notes in the price book about that. And also with our growth here, we are moving our limits up. So a couple months ago, we did have a marketing bulletin go out that just talked about how we expanded. So we used to have, for an enterprise system, you would have 1 MAS and then up to 40 SASs or satellite servers in that system. We've now tested up to 60, so you can keep going if you have a really large global system. We also added a new MAS 7. So in the most recent price book, you're going to have that MAS 7 license available, where you have up to 1 million global cardholder records now. So if you look at the 4th line item down, starting in R+, these limits have all increased. So we started, our top limit used to be 500,000. That was for Series T. So now it's R+ is 500,000, S is 750,000, and then we go up to 1 million for Series T. And just one other thing to note here is that we did add these final bottom rows here, the wireless IP lock sets and the offline Salto locks, just to provide some guidance of the limits per system series size. So that's this chart is published in the price book as well. Okay, so here is the really exciting part for me. You might have seen a press release that came out a couple months ago, name dropping Secure IQ. So what that is that is becoming the web client. So the same web-based client that we debuted back in 290 with this first feature set down in the left-hand corner was the early stages of the new Secure platform. So what we didn't want to do was have a heavy migration process like we had in the past with Secure 800, 8000 and Secure to going to Secure 9000. So now what we've done is we've introduced the web-based client, and we are got a very regimented roadmap where we're adding quite a bit of functionality as quickly as possible to build this client up to, what you know and love today as the thick client, while also offering a lot of new features and functionality that we didn't have the opportunity to before. One of those is really aligning with our video side. So in this first phase, you're going to see how we have native video built in for American Dynamics and Exact, how those platforms are streamlined. It's all one GUI. So you have, your video and your access all in one platform. You don't need to go to any other windows. It's all in one location. Also, having it on the web is just kind of making it future-proof, right? It's more cyber secure. It's also easier to deploy in cloud installations or any kind of hybrid approaches that people might want that flexibility in the future. And it can scale. So people that are on the go or have kind of pop-up locations and guards and things like that, you can scale down to a tablet size, and we have allotted for touch-friendly options for those screens. So this just gives you kind of the lay of the land of what's available all through 3.0. I will give a sneak peek at the end of this presentation just to show you guys what's coming in September. So 290, we kind of focused on the day-to-day use case for personnel administration, everything from viewing existing personnel to adding new personnel, credentials, badging. We also introduced web views, so that was a way for your administrator to kind of streamline the application and really define what people need to focus on based on their roles and responsibilities. And then a year ago, we had Feature Pack 2, so that came out in April of 2021. And this was kind of more of our NERC-CIP compliance. We had the first stages of our event viewer and different ways to kind of interpret those events coming in, whether you use standard list view like you were familiar with the thick client, or you had bubble view or card view, so a bunch of different areas. And then we had intrusion zones and manual actions included as well. Now in 3.0, this list is just continually growing, quite a bit added this past rev. So again, the video is one of the probably strongest, coolest new features in the platform. I'm so excited to show this to you. So it's the first stages. So obviously you can build your application layouts. We also have a series of layouts that are included out of the box. And we have the beginnings of video search incorporated in. So you can do date and time and thumbnail. And then the next phase that's coming out in a couple months from now will have your advanced built-in analytic searches for American Dynamics and Exact. We also completely redesigned Swipe and Show for the web client. So that is very cool. And there's a great tie-in to video there. And a couple other things that we added was the audit and journal and device status, and also the health dashboard. So this was kind of a fan favorite from the 280 version of our legacy web client. So now that's been redesigned for this web client. So people that, were familiar with it will get to have this in the new web client. So how we've approached our revs and what we add is really designed about how to get certain roles and people up and running on the thin client as quickly as possible. So taking into consideration kind of their day-to-day tasks and what they need to get done. So these four are kind of the core areas we focused on for the first couple of revs here. So obviously, in 290, we started out heavy on the personnel management side with the personnel views and credentials and any editing related to personnel records. This last rev, though, we've incorporated like security guards, so you can have that day-to-day video surveillance and also bring up things like Swipe and Show or have quick action buttons, depending on your dynamic layout. We also have the SOC operator. Those users can start getting comfortable on the thin client as they, build their more robust dynamic dashboards. They can toggle from light and dark mode themes. They have ways to view those clips, take snapshots, and export data. And then lastly, with the security administrator, again, a lot of that goes into the configuration and overall viewing of the system, but they have the web views and the system health dashboard along with those actual layout configurations. So I'm going to actually take you through the web client in a moment here, but this is really what I wanted to focus on, kind of the three main scenarios. So from a system administrative standpoint, I'll be showing you the web views and a little bit of the personnel and what's changed since 290, and we'll take a look at the health dashboard. And then we will switch over to our more robust video operations center kind of look and feel, and how we can incorporate video with events and other quick action buttons. And the last portion I will be taking you through is the swipe and show. So take a look at how that's been redesigned and how you can use video along with that, and any other little items here like, gracing personnel or unlocking doors. So let me bring up the web client. Okay, so just to get started here, the web client is, in the first phase, you would get right into the personnel administration screen. You didn't have this kind of login screen where you could see the different applications. Then in feature pack 2, we added the monitoring, or the first stages of monitoring with the event viewer. So you had these two logos. And then now with the configuration options, this is full functionality for version 3.0. Again, common areas that you can change. We now have 4 customized color themes. So there's a light mode, a charcoal, a kind of deeper slate, and then the dark mode, which is more of like, black on black. But that's probably primarily for people that are doing some heavy video viewing. We also have the opportunity to change languages. So there's a bunch of different options here that are native to Secure. My database is in English, so a lot of like the names and things would still show up in English, but any of the core titles and screen areas that you can click through should update to that correct language. So we will quiz Boone later. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so aside from that, let's jump in. So from the system administrative standpoint, you have your personnel. So again, this actually was released in version 290, this portion of the web client. But some of the updates here is that the images have moved to a circular type look and feel. We've also updated the actual editing screen here for the general tab. This is all now in one column. The thought process behind that is that if you are using a tablet and you need to scroll and fill things out, it's very complicated to use a tablet and have 2 separate columns. So they've condensed this area into one column. They've left proper spacing so that if you have a touch screen that you're utilizing, you'll be able to click on the different areas without touching the wrong spot. So I'm going to jump over to configuration. Here you have the ability to set up different layouts. So with 3.0, and I'll show you in a moment with the monitoring screen, you have 7 built-in layouts. So out of the box, whether you are upgrading from 290 or you are a new fresh install of 3.0, you're going to have some layouts that are available to you right out of the box, just to make people have something to get started right away. And then of course you can make your own custom ones. So how to make a custom one is pretty easy. You have this grid where you can just kind of design your layout. So you can select from some kind of prefabricated layouts, 2x2 view, 2x8, or you can completely customize and just use the grid details alone. How you add something in is you select one of the areas. So I'll start with swipe and show, and then you can just kind of decide how big you want it. It's very easy to configure. You're just gonna, any of the ones that you see the little tool, you can click on and configure. I can add door groups, doors, or elevators, and then any other permissions and buttons as well I can select for that. If I wanted to add video, same thing. I pick my little video camera, I drag and drop, I decide, you know, general real estate that I want to take up for my layout. Here I would have my list of discovered cameras where I can literally just drag and drop them in. And I will also have different types of controls. So if you have a PTZ enabled camera or anything like that, you'd be able to have those controls built into your layout and you wouldn't have to go and open them. So it's all for convenience. There's other quick action buttons, and I'm gonna kind of show you some of the layouts that have already been built. We also have a preview tab. So if you wanna see what it's gonna look like on the screen and make sure everything is placed the way you want it. Discard that. We have a lot of different layouts, so I don't think I need to add any more. Okay, and the last portion for the system administrator that I kind of wanted to point out was the web views. So you can design the tool. Again, this is not new to 3.0. This came out in 2.90, but it has moved to the configuration area. This previously was in the personnel administration screen, but it has moved to configuration because it's really more for a system administrator to kind of set up the functionality of where people are going. So in this particular case, if I'm setting up what I want this web client to look like for a security guard, I can go in here and from on-off toggles, I can decide, you know, what areas I want them to have access to in the web. And I can bring up the full context menus as well to kind of pick, like, you know, down to the nitty-gritty of what I want to show visible to them when they log on to the web. And then once I'm happy with it, so in this particular case, I don't think the guard needs to get into configuring anything or assigning clearances. It's really just the monitoring and some access to personnel. And when I'm happy with that, I'll save it. And then I can go back in from a right-click action and preview that. And you're gonna notice up in the right-hand corner, I have a little blinking icon. And now I've had my screen kind of cleaned up for this particular user. So from a security guard standpoint, I'm not going to have that configuration icon anymore. And if I go into my personnel screen, I've lost some of my tabs here. So we felt strongly about not graying out areas and kind of frustrating people to areas that they can't access. But making it very easy to train and get people set up. So then if I right click, I just have a very condensed menu option that my guards are able to access. And once I'm happy with what I believe I've set up, I can just click that little icon again in the top right-hand corner, and it's gonna go back to the administrative view. Okay, so let's get over to monitoring. It's pretty exciting. See some of our video in here. So right away, when I moved over to monitoring and I click my drop down, the first 7 here are the ones that you're going to get out of the box. So anybody would have those when they upgrade. And then the rest of these are kind of a toss up of ones that I've created or some of our development teams created as test ones. But I wanted to show you the guard post. So we have a simulator running that's going to be pulling in badge reads. These are cameras located in our office. It's a little bit dark right now, it's nighttime, but in an ideal world, what you would have available to you is that as people are badging into a certain door, you would have the video representation of the person that's actually going through that door. So I can easily make sure that, you know, Joseph, here I'm going to pause this for a minute, that Joseph that just badged in and was admitted, actually looks like the same person who came in through that door. And if we get one, like this particular one is a rejected one, you know, very clearly you're going to get that red indicator. You're also going to have the opportunity to pull up the video on the fly for that person. So this would show you the associated video to whatever door that camera was positioned at to get details on. And you can kind of fast forward or rewind depending on what you need to take a look at. You also have the opportunity to open up any of these swipe and shows. So I'm going to go to full screen just to show you what it looks like. So here we have Victoria. It's giving the details. She did get admitted to that door, but I also have the full list or previous cause list of other doors that she's accessed, right? So if there's a thought that somebody's card was misplaced or stolen and then somebody else might have picked it up and is using it, I can easily go back in and check the video of, whatever cameras were available at the doors that she badged in and make sure that it was truly Victoria who had entered those areas. Okay. So I'm going to actually now switch over to the video SOC operator view, and I'm going to show you what it looks like in a dark mode. So here we have kind of a fully robust layout built for this person. So you have your event viewer up here in the top left-hand corner. Any of these areas I can pull into full screen if I want more details. If I click on any of these, I'm going to have the individual details about those events. I can acknowledge and clear, log messages, see instructions, etc. I'm going to have, whatever camera I associated for this particular view, or I could have a, 4x4 view or whatever I wanted to put in here. I have my running swipe and show down at the bottom. Then I have some quick action links. So, I can have a quick action button to go straight to the system health dashboard. Let's take a look at that real quick. So the system health dashboard, again, very similar to what we had in 280. This is just kind of your running 7-day tally of how the system's behaving. So you can have it, you can pick the frequency that it refreshes, or just leave it, I think it refreshes every 30 seconds or so. Then you can have your look at CPU usage, memory usage, connected drives, any journal activity over the last week, and also latency. So any communication latency between panels and things like that. Again, this is just a simulator. So if this was a real system, we'd probably have a big problem having 2,500 card rejects, but that's just because our swipe and show is running the full time just to get some information in there. With this system health dashboard, I can also press those 3 little dots and I can pull up the full list. And if I scroll down to the bottom, I'd be able to export that as well. So there is some customization available at the top here where I can kind of decide, oops, I didn't need to click off. I can decide which fields I want to include or not, and then I can export that data or filter further. So let's go back to our SOC operation view. So again, that was just a little quick link. We could also have, standard operating procedures linked, or maybe your local weather. So it's getting a little bit chilly here in Westford tonight. Or I can have action buttons like lock down, like we're going to lock down the facility. They gave me the power, so I'm going to do it. And you'll notice right away, it showed up as my event up at the top. So could unlock all the doors, or I could do a momentary unlock. So in this particular case, it just lets me know that that command was sent. So a lot of different options here. And then another area that I just wanted to show you is that up in this left-hand corner is this little, we call it a hamburger menu box, but you have your manual actions, your intrusion zones, your audit and journal that you can access, and your device actions. So one of the best parts of having the devices here is that now you can select a certain device, and just like in the thick client, you have that right-hand click option for security view. So here I can pop up the details of that particular camera. I can toggle between live and recorded video. I can easily, start clips or take a snapshot, pull up full PTZ controls if that camera is PTZ enabled. We also have ways of setting camera presets or sequences and patterns, so that when I'm viewing something, it's going to, keep a pattern or flow of different panes that it's going to shift through. So all very easy. I can also, I only have 4 cameras in here, but I could easily just kind of swap in a different camera view based on my discovered camera list. So it takes its, the top 80-20 rule of what it thinks you want to view, and then you can kind of go and shift from there. So I think this is the main area of the web I wanted to kind of demonstrate for you today. We're pretty excited. If there's any questions, I can take those. And then I also wanted to give a sneak peek of what's coming in 3.01. So, Greg, do we have any questions yet?
Yeah, I'm not seeing any right now.
Okay, that's fine. We'll switch over to our presentation and I'll give the look at 3.01. So just to note here, we are moving to a point-based system. We used to call them service packs, and the thought process is that we're adding a lot of functionality. So we don't want to just call it a service pack when we're adding features each time. So we're also trying to build functionality into our thin client as quickly as possible. So we are calling them point releases. It's going to be, several releases per year for those point releases. Again, they wouldn't be affecting like your SDKs. We're still, keep the normal cadence of 1 major release per calendar year, like we've been, I think we've done from the beginning of time. But we will have more feature-related packs, which we call point releases. So in September, we are going to have our first phase of data center. If you haven't heard about that, this is pretty exciting. This is a great step for people that are looking to really expand, have that native high availability and fault tolerance, or maybe they've maxed out how many controllers and cameras they can get on their system, and they really need this. So with data center, the first phase is going to be 3 times expansion. So we are containerizing our iSTAR drivers for a Kubernetes environment. So using microservices, you would be able to stand up 3 Linux-based servers to your 1 physical server. So that means today, where you have a max of 1,000 controllers and up to 5,000 readers per system, you could now have 15,000 readers and 3,000 controllers. So, basically 3 times what you can have today. You're also going to have that native high availability and fault tolerance, because you'll be able to, everything's going to be containerized, right? So you'll have different worker nodes. So if 1 driver or 1 worker node goes down, Kubernetes is going to orchestrate and spin up a new one to kind of keep that system flowing. So we're very excited about that. We're going to have more details soon. Our internal teams are getting trained right now, and we will have, things like a data sheet available shortly, and our professional services will be up to speed for anybody who's interested in that right away. We also have the web is getting rebranded to SecureIQ. So here is a look at the new logo. Again, you're not going to lose the thick client, the Secure 9000 thick client. That, no fear of that going away anytime soon. We need to build all functionality over to the thin client and get up to speed on that. And it's going to be supported for a very long time. So no worries there. We just wanted to make the migration process or the upgrade process much easier, and where you could keep your existing database without having a heavy migration process. So with this new rebranding, we are going to have additional functionality. So some of the areas that we are hitting in September, we're going to have for video monitoring, there's going to be smart streaming and bandwidth management. We're also going to have a drag and view scrub bar added, and there's going to be clip verification and clip export included as well. And then for video investigation, we're going to have those built-in advanced analytics search options for, again, both American Dynamics and Exact. And it's going to be the first stages. So we'll have a Victor Express replacement and the first phase of our activity viewer. So the activity viewer is something that, you know, people use in the thick client today as a living, breathing heartbeat of what's connected to the system and you know, what's working and what's not. So we're going to get that ticker on there. And the last one, which is pretty cool, is SAML 2.0 support. So we are going to bundle this option in with our LDAP licensing models right now, but that would be for single sign-on or two-factor authentication, and it's going to be available for the web client, Secure Portal, and the thick client. So you'll have some functionality, and I know the team is looking into Okta right now as one of the options to leverage with that SAML support. So I think that's it. We can see if there's any questions coming in.
So the only question that has come in is there a link to the demo site?
So this particular one is like our dev setup that I have access to. So this one's not public. I mean, 3.0 is available right now on software downloads, and the web client is part of that base package. So, I mean, you could easily stand up a test system and play around with the web. You know, I don't know if Boone is planning to have any separate like demo systems for sales leads in the region, but we can follow up with Boone on that one. Okay, I don't know if there's any others.
Nope.
Again,
No.
if anybody joined late, this session is recorded, but we'll also post a recording to the Learn site next week of this is our third session that Greg and I have done together. So we will make sure one of those gets posted. Okay. Well, if we don't have any other questions, I think we can wrap up for today. Again, thank you for joining and viewing everything that's new. We're really excited about it. Greg and I were excited to be able to present together. It's not always that we get to align both of our roadmaps, hardware and software, together.
No, thank you very much. I appreciate your time this morning. And if you have any questions, please contact Boone or ourselves, and we'll get back to you. And you know, like Ashley said, we'll be building an FAQ as well, trying to answer all these questions.
Okay, thank you so much, guys. Talk to you soon.